Hello. I think we're live. If anyone's watching and you can tell me we're live, that would be great. It looks like we are. So this is my first Substack Live.
Hi, Lorraine. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you though. Wait 1 second. Audio. Okay. Once. Oh, I hear you now.
Yay. Okay, great. Okay, great.
Perfect.
So give us some grace, everyone. This is our first time doing this, but I want to start by just saying welcome to everyone who's watching now, or maybe watching a little bit later. This is Brand Breakthrough Live, where I take a real brand question from one of my brand and belief subscribers and explore it through a consultation. Okay. Anyone can watch and learn from these conversations, especially us, but the opportunity to join me in a hot seat is an exclusive benefit to subscribers. And right now you can be a free subscriber and reach out to me. So this is where I want to move away from general brand advice and kind of dive into a real question from a real creator or business owner. So one subscriber joins me in a live hot seat, but the consultation is designed to help everyone watching recognize something in their brand more clearly. Today, I'm joined by Melinda Lloyd, who has built three, not one or two, but three successful Substack publications that all feel unmistakably like her. She is now bringing them together under Living Aloha Collective. Is that right?
Yes.
And asking one important question. Are these publications strengthening one brand or quietly competing with another? So we're going to talk a little bit in just a minute. I'm going to invite Melinda to share her story. We're going to talk about the brand that connects the work, this distinct role of each publication that she has, and whether aloha as a concept can become meaningful positioning without slipping into cliche. These were the concerns that she expressed to me. And while we're doing this, because I've already done such an excellent job, I'm going to be taking some notes myself so that I can review my session with Melinda and send her some additional thoughts and insights. So, Melinda, welcome to Brand Breakthrough Live. Let's begin with what you are building and why you felt it needed, or maybe you don't think it needed any longer, but how did you come about with three separate publications?
Thank you, Lorraine, and thank you for inviting me and
Yeah.
accepting me as your first your first consult, live consult. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I started in Substack in January of this year, and as a creator, and my original intent was just to share with basically the world, whoever's on Substack about aloha. Like, what is that concept or that value of aloha? Because I feel a lot of people across the world think aloha just means hello or goodbye. Some people might understand that it means love as well. It's a very complex value, and it's hard to overcome the tourist kind of conception of what aloha is,
Yeah.
and that was also embedded in my question, right? Because I didn't want to devalue what the word was. I really wanted to bring that concept of living aloha, which really is just this true unconditional love,
Mhm.
and treating everyone you meet with unconditional positive regard. And it doesn't mean that people can, run over you, or, that you're a doormat. It really means that you're holding people accountable too, right? So it's
Mhm.
just like a dance. So I started with that, living aloha. I didn't even know how to do a publication back then. So I just had my name, right? And so as I evolved and I learned more by watching others, I thought, okay, let's do this. I made my first publication. And then maybe 1 month in, I got feedback from two people around the same time. So
Yeah.
one was Jen, and then the other was Jay. And these were people who were with me from the beginning. And each of them reached out separately in the chat, and they both were saying, like, and I know this, I can be noisy because my brain goes all over the place. I'm
Yeah.
neurodiverse, right? So
Yeah.
I really wasn't keeping the through line of living aloha, or maybe I was, but I was all over the place. So I
Okay.
thought, okay, I will try. So I started the second one, which was the everything is connected, no really.
Okay.
My
Okay.
right. And that's how I thought I could kind of deal with some of the seemingly tangential things and connect it.
We're just going to rename that. And
Yes,
just
that's what
everything
it
is
is.
connected. Yes. Yes.
Everything is connected. Again, that's also risky, right? Because it was kind of, I'm trying to connect the dots for people,
Got
but it
it.
still could be noisy. And then the last one came about the Melinda talk story to
Uh-huh.
kind of weave it all together. And that came maybe in June. So
Okay.
here we are.
Interesting. And they're all doing really well. Do you know how many subscribers are consistent? Are most subscribers consistent across all three publications? Or
Some
do
are.
you have a variety of subscribers, would you say?
I do have a variety, and there are really consistent people. There's about, and I'm happy with it, maybe 50 people who consistently interact
Right.
and engage. So, yeah, so I'm really excited about that because the other thread throughout everything is community and connection and
Right.
building that, authentic community where people can share their stories and we can listen to each other's stories and again connect the dots between what it means for each of us. Like we can make meaning. What does it mean for each of us? Yeah.
Correct. That's
It
good.
makes sense to me. I don't know if it does to other people.
Well, we're gonna kind of look at this a little bit. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, but I want to start by saying that many multidimensional creators, and let's just be real, most creators are multidimensional. They start because they have a lot of things to say, right? Or maybe they're into the written word, but they're also throwing pottery. Creatives want to create. It's just in our blood. But I think also business owners, entrepreneurs are creatives in their own way. They're starting businesses, they have services, then they want to bring this thing in and this thing in. And I think what comes up is that you start to worry, is this going to dilute my brand? So that is one of the reasons I said yes immediately. You had to come on because I think your questions are very common. We want to create and we need to figure out what is the connection, or is there a connection? Different topics, I will say, don't necessarily create different brands, which was one of your questions. The real question is whether these topics are connected by like one recognizable belief or promise or reader journey, or in your case, I have a feeling it's going to be the philosophy. So that's where we're going to start. So you already answered this a little bit about why you created separate publications, and it was because a couple of people told you, and you realized that this was probably true, that you were going a little outside the lane you had initially claimed for yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So now I want you to think for a minute about what you believe, and you can name the publications in whatever order you want. What is unique about each of these publications? So we know that there's overlap. Anyone who reads you, myself included, knows that there's some overlap, but why should someone subscribe to each publication? What is the unique value, I guess, that each one offers? And take your time.
Yes, thank you, Lorraine. So I'll start with the first, I'll start in the order that they came into being, right? So
Yeah.
the first one, and I'm having everything, and this only is like within the last 2 months, I came up with an umbrella called the Living Aloha Collective,
Yes, I
right?
saw that. Yeah.
Yes. And so, and it encompasses each of the three publications. And I really had to hold myself in because I wanted to do another one. And I'm like, no, let's just concentrate on these. And because it overlapped with the Everything is Connected. So I'll start with the Living Aloha. And
Okay.
the full title of it is Living Aloha, Rooted and Regulated with Melinda. Right. So that was my first publication. And I'm calling that the practice room where people can come home to themselves, kind of discover who they are. And I say that it might sound strange to some people, but for me, I had to really do some work to uncover who is Melinda because I spent, most of my life catering to other people.
Oh,
You know,
shocking.
yeah, I was one of those people. If someone would say, "Hey, where do you want to eat?" I would say, "I don't care. Where do you want to go?"
Yeah.
So I truly actually didn't even really know sometimes. But sometimes I did know what I didn't want, but I didn't open my mouth when somebody was right.
Yeah.
So see, I didn't really have that feel like I had that agency or even that space to assert myself because I didn't even know who I was, right? So,
Hmm.
so I there was a combination of three things that helped me get it together and to come home to myself. The first was getting therapy, which is so funny because I'm a therapist, right? I'm a very seasoned therapist of over 30 years. However, you can't do therapy on yourself,
Right.
blind to our blindness. So
Right.
I got therapy. I went through mindful forgiveness, which helped me release so many heavy burdens that I had from my life. And then the final piece that brought it together was boundaries work. And so through the boundaries, I uncovered like who I was. So you go through this values thing and you find out, and of course, aloha was my number one value that
Yes.
I
Yes.
ascribed and resonated with. So I found myself at 58, you know, who is Melinda? And I'm still uncovering who I am. So that's why I think that's so important because some people don't even really know or they don't feel safe enough to come home to themselves. So living aloha, we talk about practical wisdom and nervous system care, the mind,
Mhm.
body, spirit, kind of thing. And sometimes it's not quite synced up. And so, starting slow, also talk about boundaries, resilience, self trust, and healing.
Mhm.
And then offering tools and insights to help people, live differently and to live that aloha, right?
So
Okay.
that's really good. And I'm going to challenge you
Sure.
because we're talking about what's distinct. So I'm going to
Yes.
challenge
Yes.
you to tell me in like 2 sentences what
Mhm.
makes that publication unique from the other two.
Okay, yes. So it is the idea of the practice
The
room. So
practice.
people
Okay.
can in the community, in the engagement, um, have that interaction and through that either share
Okay.
who they are or
Good.
uncover who they are. So that's it. The practice room is the differentiating piece.
Okay. Great. That's really good. So the next one is everything is connected, correct?
Yes, yes. Everything is connected. No, really. That's the full
Yeah,
title.
I love that. The no really part. Yes.
Right, right. And and I have to like I have this disclaimer that I'm a child of hippies. So I grew up
That's
in this
okay.
whole like
That's okay.
metaphysical woo woo kind of thing and but I really believe it and it's also part of my Hawaiian culture, right? So
Yeah.
the differentiator for this one is and this I only came to within the last 3 weeks, really trying
Okay.
to hone in.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it the lookout, where to come and look at this with me. So to connect the dots, to help people connect the dots and make meaning,
Right.
right? From seemingly tangential, diverse kind of ideas, right?
Right.
And so it's connections for new perspectives,
Uh-huh.
unexpected connections you might not necessarily see, psychology, culture, relationships, and more. And then number one, and I don't know if Seth is still on because we always joke about it because I'm super curious about things, and I always was, even as a little girl. I think it's part of my neurodiversity. But there's a Hawaiian word called niele, And it means you're curious, right? It means you're curious. Some people might take it as nosy, but it really isn't. It really isn't. You're just curious about everything, and why does this work? Why is the sky blue? All that kind of stuff. So yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Any feedback for me on that one?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let's go to Melon. It's Melon.
Yep,
Tell
Melinda
story.
story.
Yeah,
Yes.
talk story. I couldn't think of talk. I was like, nuts, not
No
told.
worries. Thank you. And so I thank you for this space. And I really, I'm learning. I've been following Dr. Jane Bormeister, and she does the Captain Rhetoric about speaking. And she's really
Ah,
excellent. If you
right.
haven't followed
Yeah.
her, she's really excellent. So I've been working with her, and I have to learn to slow down. So here we go.
Just breathe. It's okay. Yep.
Yes, I'll breathe
I'm
and I'll
not
use
going
all the
anywhere.
tools. And so, yeah, so Melinda talks story. So Melinda is my nickname.
Mhm.
And it's, yeah, interesting how that came about. But so it's the front porch. It's come and sit with me, come, let's sit. And in Hawaii, we call it talk story, right? Let's sit and talk story with each other,
Mm, okay,
right? And,
that
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
We call
And
them
it's,
front porch conversations,
yes,
in the
exactly.
Midwest.
Oh,
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
And that's funny because that's my differentiator, the front porch, right?
I
And
love it.
so I love
Yes.
it. And so it's that whole feeling, right? It's comfortable, you're just sharing. And it's this d- actually, one of the threads throughout every of these publications is the dynamic and reciprocal kind of processes of that sharing and the listening and engaging. And it's really genuine, a genuine exchange. So that's a
Right.
thread, right? And
I
again,
love
the
that.
real thread is aloha.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stories for the heart is what I call it. And it's personal stories that make you feel less alone. There's humor, humanity, and real life. And then
Mhm.
again, connection, belonging, and me too. That whole idea like, hey, that's one of the other reasons underlying me going
Yeah.
on Substack, because I'm a clinician and I'm a helping professional, and I just want to help people to have some tools, right, to
Yeah.
navigate life. And so part of it is there's a loneliness epidemic, right? And people
Yes.
are really craving connection, belonging, and just kind of like tapping into the universality of humanity. So
Correct. Right.
yes,
Right. Well, that is a great segue to my next question. So, I was challenging you to tell us why each publication is distinct. And I
yes,
think we got a little bit of why they are, but also kind of where you're stuck.
yes.
So that was really helpful. But now I want to move for a minute to your creation of the Living Aloha Collective. So I always start with goals. With you, I started with a little bit background information, but where did the Living Aloha Collective idea come from, and what is your goal for it?
Okay, good question. Because this is also a new kind of thing that came up. And it
Yeah,
came up when back in April, I had to make a big decision if I got an early retirement incentive from work. Like it was a very nice incentive.
nice. Yeah.
But and I'm only 62 and I have chronic health problems, and
Um,
I'm not eligible for Medicare until 65. So it got me
correct.
thinking on this path of, okay, what do I want to do? Do I really want to retire? And if I retire, what shall I do? I do a lot of
Mhm.
contracting work, and I have all these little things that I do in projects, but I thought let's bring it together and let's like make it into something, right? And so I had just registered my name, and it's just baby step. So I'm just doing a DBA, doing business as
Mhm.
Living Aloha Collective, and I will, you know, do another kind of incarnation once I get my sea legs, just to protect myself, right? The
Mhm.
LLC, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I did this before back in the day when I was starting to consult in the 2000s. So just because I wanted some umbrella to hold
Okay.
everything. So I have some experience, but that's
Right.
basically where we are now. I just,
Okay.
that's
All right. So that is the umbrella. What is your goal? Like are you monetizing your Substacks other than paid subscriptions? And what is your goal for this? Like if Substack delivered the golden ticket of everything you wanted, what would that
right.
look like? What would that look like?
Yes, that's a good question. So I feel like Substack, I mean, when I first started, I was like, this is my element. This is my people. Like, I literally burned my eyeballs out just being on Substack,
Yes, yes, I
connecting
can
with
relate
people.
to
And
that.
oh, it was so, and, for me, I'm actually an extreme introvert. And so, I'm much more articulate on paper or
Uh,
in Zooms. I feel much more comfortable than in real life. I feel so awkward in real life. Okay, wait,
yeah.
I lost my track telling that story.
That's okay,
Can you
like,
prompt
your
me again?
your your dream, like, if
Oh, yes, my
Substack worked
dream.
out the way you wanted it to, what would it look like for you? Would you be monetizing this, getting clients? Would you be doing speaking engagements? I don't wanna paint the picture, you paint the picture. Here's the
Yes, I will.
paintbrush. Okay, Melon, tell us.
Okay, so it really is. I'm still thinking about it because I feel like I'm still thinking in the old way of doing things,
Okay,
and
okay.
for me in the past, because I don't want to replicate it, and I find myself starting to replicate it. I was a
Mm,
single mom for so many years, and I didn't get child support for whatever reason, and it's fine. I'm over it now. But I
yeah.
had to work multiple jobs, so when my children were with their dad, I was working my second and third jobs, so I
Wow,
was basically
yeah,
a workaholic. And I had contracts here and, there's a lot of work for clinicians out there,
yeah,
especially clinicians that work with people of color or culture who have, Hawaiians. Working with Native Hawaiians is my specialty
okay,
because I'm Native Hawaiian. um, so, okay, wait, I'm lost. See, when I tell the stories and I lose track of the thread. Oh,
okay,
what do
that's
I want? My dream.
okay.
Okay.
Mhm,
So at first I thought, let's just do what I did in the past. But
mhm,
I'm no longer in my 30s or 40s. I'm in my 60s and I can't do that anymore.
okay,
I can't do that anymore. So I thought, okay, how do I maybe adapt what I've done in the past? So I do a lot of free workshops, I have been presenting at conferences for 20 plus years. And, I
great.
have this niche role that I love doing because it's another way to share information. But for me, the other differentiator that I have, and I think it's throughout everything, but I might maybe need to elevate it and make it more seen,
Mhm,
is the idea of applied practice. So let me tell you a quick story. My friend, and then he became my boss, but I would always say my favorite saying is knowledge is power, right? And so he said, oh, yes, and he said applied knowledge is power, because what good is all of this if you are not using it,
I
right?
love that,
Right.
yes.
So applied knowledge is power is what it's not explicitly shared. It's implicit in how I frame my articles, my notes, and my posts. So
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Okay, so I am going to diagnose for a little bit, and then we can hop back over.
sure.
So what I'm hearing is you have 3 publications with really one mission,
Yes.
which is to create this sense of aloha in the full meaning of the word.
Yes.
To me, that signals that this is an intentional, even though it wasn't intentional in how you started creating it, but it's now your intention to create this as an ecosystem. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
And I know you did a graphic that you shared, and that feels warm and cohesive and unmistakably you. But I'm going to like go a little bit deeper. So it seems like there's reflection there, and you have um, descriptions of stories in 2 different publications. You have connection, meaning, and healthier living. Those words appear across all 3 of them. And living aloha and Melinda's story still promise very similar emotional outcomes. So I think that what you've done is you've organized the publications, but that's not really the same as giving each one an unmistakable role. And so I
Yes.
think the challenge for you is going to be to really be able to answer in one sentence what each of these is uniquely contributing to the ecosystem that you're building, and then to stick with that. So if you're writing something for a publication, being able to go back to this publication does this and saying, does this really work? And so you can still be multidimensional, but you can't bring every facet to every publication. And there may be things that, based on your goal, which I hear loosely, but I think that's work that you have to do as well, you need to put kind of blinders on and say, if it doesn't fit into this distinction, or this distinction, it's a not now, maybe later kind of thing. But to do that, you have to really spend some time thinking about, where do I really want to go? Like, what is this? Is this ultimately a group program? When you talk about collective means other people, typically in the sense that a collective would either be a group that you're managing, which it sounds like, or it could be a group where there's a few different experts that are part of the collective. Is almost like leading with people with complementary skills, if that makes sense. Now, it sounds like you're looking at the former rather than the latter, but you also want to be able to define that. So we want to also make sure that your 3 publications aren't really, even though they're overlapping, creating somewhat different brands. And so you have to make sure that they're all connected and supportive of Aloha, the collective that you're building. And so that's why you have to have a promise. Basically, it comes down, a brand is a promise you make, and then the stakeholders, your audiences, tell you, did you deliver on that promise? And that's what determines your brand. It's the experience that you create for other people. And so each of your publication definitions is telling people what to expect, and that's your promise for the publication. Your brand promise, as I see it, for Aloha Collective is to, well, we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute, but teaching people how to come home to themselves is what you kind of said. And I really like that. And so I'm going to send you a worksheet, and we're going to work through the only here kind of thing. So if someone creates a publication, and I work with clients creating publications, we do the only here promise. So Melon Talk story. Only here will you find da 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 da, and then you can list out the content that belongs there. So even as you're telling stories, being able to differentiate, and maybe you already do this very clearly. Would people read a story and think, oh, that could be in Living Aloha, or would they be, oh no, this is Melon Talk story? People should be able to get that. And so it's kind of an editorial test. And basically, the test is, if a draft that you create could be published unchanged in more than one of the publications, then the roles are not yet distinct enough. Does that make sense?
It really does. And that's so helpful, because I do tend to be like a wild monkey sometimes because everything connects to me. So
Right.
but the audience, it's noisy.
But you're inside your head, so you can
Yes.
understand and see the
Right.
connection. And what we want to do is we want to have a golden thread that ties these together while keeping them distinguishable. So it's like kids. How many kids do you have? Do you have children?
I have 3.
Perfect. 3 publications, 3
Right.
children. All 3 children are your children. They all belong to you in that sense. But I bet you that each one has their own distinct personality. And if someone said to you, this person did that, you would know instantly which child it was.
Yes.
Okay, good. So these publications, in a way, are your babies. They're your creations. So I want them to be that distinct for you.
Yes.
So what I also want to say, and sorry, my allergies are really bad, so I'm
Me
drinking a
too.
lot of water.
No worries.
August. I don't think that your deeper brand is the personal essays, the psychology, or the nervous system care. I think those are parts of it. Um, I think what you said that really hits home for me is that your brand is helping people come home to themselves
Yeah.
so that they can live in a more conscious relationship in their own skin with others and even in the world. So, if you are a person of faith or a metaphysical type of person, you believe that each of us has a unique purpose here in the world. And we have to come home to ourselves to be really cognizant of that. And by living our purpose, then we are who God or that higher purpose intended us to be, and we can serve others and create the ripples in the lives of other people and create our impact in the world. Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yes, I love it. Living our purpose. I love that.
Yeah. So your brand is really the Aloha Collective is helping people come home to themselves so that, and then you can, expand whether you use the words I used or come up with words that feel even more correct for you.
Mhm. Again,
So
these are really helpful anchors, Lorraine. Thank you.
you're
I appreciate
welcome. So I have a couple other things I want to talk through, and then you can ask me any final questions you may have, and I will follow this up by sending my notes to you. I think Melon Talk Story is really the first tier. I know you had them in a different order, but I
Mhm.
think Melon Talk Story creates emotional recognition. People
Mhm.
see themselves in stories, they feel seen. And
Yeah.
so if you're on the front porch, you want people to come in the door. So
Yes.
you invite them up to the porch, you share stories that help them be seen, and then you say to them, everything is connected. Let me show you. That's the meaning and the interpretation. You're bringing them in deeper and you're showing them the pattern between connections. You can't really do that if they don't trust you yet in the same way. So we look at bringing people in, creating relationship, building trust. Melon Talk Story is front porch conversations so people feel seen. Everything is connected is meaning and interpretation so people can see the patterns, right?
Mhm.
Something as simple as if you wake up in a bad mood, you're short with your spouse or your kids or whatever, and you go about the day and you're going to continue to see and feel like you're having a negative day because that's the lens that you have. And you're going to create ripples, all right, but they're going to be negative ripples. Whereas if you wake up and you're living aloha and you're believing that things are connected, you know that everything you do sends ripples out there and you're choosing to make them positive ripples. So even if you have something you're dealing with or you're not feeling very well, like you have said, you go about your day with positivity, knowing that you could make or break someone else's day. And I think that's why they belong in that order. So Melon Talk Story, front porch conversation, everything is connected, see the pattern, and living aloha is practicing the wisdom.
I love that. And thanks for reframing that for me and seeing it, because that brings more coherence into how where do I put all the different things, right? Because again, like I said before, sometimes I'm like a wild monkey and it's like midnight and I'm just kind of like
Well, because you don't have a compass. So what we're
Right.
doing is giving you a compass, right? So you
Yes.
know how you want to go. And so I think if we want to say, it's Brand Breakthrough Live, I'm hoping that the breakthrough is that Melon Talk's story is the heart. It's the warm
Yes.
welcome.
Mhm.
Everything is connected is the mind, because you're bringing kind of it sounds illogical, but you're bringing some logic to it, the metaphysical, showing how things are connected.
Yes.
And living aloha is the practice of it, the wisdom that people will gain in working with you, subscribing to you, all of that. And the Aloha Collective is the container or the world or the whatever you want, the home
Yes.
that contains all three of them. So that's how I see it. How does that land with you?
Oh, it lands perfectly. And I love what you said about the compass. Having that does help me. I've had to, like, because I wasn't even diagnosed with neurodiversity, it's just everyone knew Melinda was different from when I was a
That's
little
okay.
girl.
Different is good.
It, it,
Different
it
is
is.
good.
And it was also a hard way to grow up sometimes.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
everyone would scratch their
It's
head.
hard to be different. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
No, that's so good.
yeah, so this is landing wonderfully. It is giving me a compass because for me that helps to ground me and to, quote the ending of my living aloha, it's rooted and regulated, right? Being rooted, being regulated, and sharing that and modeling that with other people, right? You can have a bad day, but is how are you presenting yourself? And again, I want to make a differentiation that not toxic positivity, right?
Right,
Not, I
right,
used to
right.
joke that I was Pollyanna, which I think is an old reference for many people now, but it was a story, a Disney story about this young girl who was just always saw the bright side of everything,
Right.
So for me, part of it was my survival mode, raising my kids and just trying to make basic needs met, So I
Yeah.
was surviving. So I was telling myself that story, and which I now know was toxic positivity. But for me, I really thought it was helping me keep it together.
Well, and it was. The story
It was.
served you at that point in time, so we don't wanna shame our former selves because
No.
they did what was necessary to survive, right?
Exactly. Yes. And I have much more compassion for the old me, and for the
Yeah.
current me. And again, another big thing I learned was to honor myself the same way I honor everybody else, and putting myself there. And
Yes.
yes,
Treat
and
yourself
having
like your best friend.
exactly. Yes. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so this definitely helps with the compass. And I love also how you talked about the collective. Like, and you're right. My collective, I was thinking, was everybody, like all of us here in the community, the readers, the subscribers, the followers, everybody, to have that piece, to be part of that beloved community, right? To quote
Yes.
Martin Luther King. And I loved what you said because I've been doing it little bit by even our call today and my live call with Dr. Jane that I had before, and
Uh-huh.
connecting with on different public, co-authoring on publications with other people. And I love the idea of having maybe live calls with experts, right? To kind of share more practical advice and maybe even more hands-on learning in the call, like how you're doing. You're modeling this, right? And I'm
Mhm.
modeling it with you. We're doing a live call to
Right,
demonstrate do
right.
learning, which is so
Yes.
brilliant. Yeah.
Thank
So
you. Yeah. So I want to say a couple final things and then we can wrap up. So I heard you talk about aloha. I don't know. I think you do know that I have a daughter that lives
yes, I do
on
know.
Oahu. So
I think
are
she
you on
lives by
Oahu?
me. I'm
Yeah.
on Oahu. I think because does she live up? Because I saw the picture of Pearl Harbor
Yeah.
in one of your pictures.
She
She
lives
lives in
on
Palapa.
No,
Halaba
she
or
lives in
Aya? Oh,
Kaneohe.
she
Yes,
does.
that's where
Oh,
she
okay.
is. Because she was in
Oh,
Kailua before that. Now she's in Kaneohe
oh,
on
okay.
on Kings Highway, and so they can see the Marine base. Okay, we'll have that
Beautiful,
conversation
beautiful.
offline. But
Okay, yes.
no, but yeah, I would love to meet up with you next time. I'm out there if that's. I mean, the
Oh,
island is not that
yes.
big.
No.
But here's what I want to say. One of the things that she loves, and the reason that she wants to raise her children there, is because of this idea of aloha, which she's tried to explain to me as well. And I think that what you were saying, and you have, because you had asked me if it was cliche. That was your last question. Is
Yes.
this concept of aloha, can it be cliche? And I say it can be, but it won't be in your hands because you can explain it as more than an aesthetic or a greeting. It is a deep, meaningful way of being in relationship, of creating the beloved community. That relationship that you're creating is with yourself, coming home to yourself, with others, and with the world, like we previously spoke about. So I think, whether it's a pinned post that you do or whatever that is, explaining the concept of aloha that you are using throughout your publications brings people in so that they have a feeling for it and they get to experience it in that way.
I love that. That's a really practical tip. I
And
appreciate it.
so I'm going to throw one other thing. I know I'm like throwing all this stuff at
Oh, I
you now,
like it.
but the good thing is you'll have the recording. So the words that I was writing as we were going through this was, and these are principles that it sounds like that you hold. They may not be your top ones, but these were the ones that I heard: presence, boundaries, mutual responsibility, resilience, compassion, and belonging.
Yes. All of the above.
So, I mean, those are things that could be touchstones as you're thinking about what you're writing, whatever that is. Um, I I also want to ask one question that you can either answer if you're sure, but you can think about it because we've done a lot. I don't think I've ever done this much in this short a period of
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah, so I think we're both on fire. So hopefully
Yes.
people are getting a
We're
good
we're
information
yes,
from this
vibing.
as well. Um, is living aloha, or the Living Aloha Collective, ultimately the name of your body of work, or is it going to be more of a community that people actively belong to?
So I it's going to be a community.
Okay.
That's still, and I will also ponder it as
Okay.
well. Yeah, that it is basically that community because that's what drew me into the Substack was that, that
Yes, yes, yes.
and how
Yeah.
connecting with everyone kind of helped me get my sea legs and then and we still have forged these connections. I can see all the people who joined. Hi everyone, wasn't ignoring you. I have a hard time like switching and talking and then looking at
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love this. I love
yes.
this. Rick and Jessica and Greg and Christy, Monica, Seth. So if we didn't name you, think, oh, there's 16 live, beautiful humans still with us here. So thank you so much. I know more people will watch it on replay. So I think I will send you all my notes, but in closing, to all the passionate creatives and entrepreneurs out there, you want to create one central belief. So I have this process I take my clients through called the one belief brand. You want to decide what your one central belief is. And so for Melon, it's articulating what living with aloha means and also being able to call out what people misunderstand. So when you create a brand, you have a unique space in the marketplace and you usually stand for something. But when you stand for something, it inevitably means you stand against something else. So people diminish aloha when they think of it just this way. Aloha actually embraces all of these things. So that's kind of your one belief from what I'm hearing right now. And
Nice.
then the second reminder is to give each publication one specific job and one only. One promise per publication so that you know when you're writing something exactly where that draft goes. Remember, story creates that recognition, that invitation to come in, be on the front porch with you. The insight through everything is connected, no, really, is about seeing the connections, the map, what have you, and having those insights. And then the practice of Aloha is what creates change for them. So they're literally walking upstairs with you or walking to the front porch and then coming inside.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I want you to think about building a visible journey for people. So help people know where to begin, why to follow each publication, and how to move further into the collective. So it could even be a second sentence like start here if you like front porch conversations, or something like that that makes it really clear who you are, what you're writing about, and what people are going to get from reading you. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I love that idea of doing a journey map.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And so the opportunity here is to create the structure that holds all of your work together so that you're not doing three brands. You're really creating an interwoven connection, that golden thread that ties them all together.
Mhm.
Do you
Thank
have
you so much.
any last questions for me, or did we do? I mean, you can always DM me too
Oh,
as you
yes,
process
yes.
everything.
I appreciate it actually I'm gonna let it all marinate and sink in, but I really have my anchors and you help me to see through the blind spots that I have and everyone has. That's why
Yeah,
they're called blind spots. You don't see it, but oftentimes everybody else sees it but you. you know and I think I have such kind subscribers and followers that they're giving me tips because they want to follow me. And
right,
one person
right.
actually told me in the beginning that they would usually just block or delete because it felt spammy. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
thank you for telling me this. And that's when I created the second one thinking it would help. So,
Well, it's now we're just fine tuning. So I
yes.
just want to say thank you so much for being willing to bring such a thoughtful and layered questions, I guess, to Brand Breakthrough Live. I think that the breakthrough today is that you do not have three competing brands. You have three expressions of one deeper brand, and you're going to make that relationship between them unmistakable. And you're going to move from Melintalk's story, which is the heart. Everything is connected, which is the mind part, and living aloha is the practice. And then the living aloha collective is the world that encompasses all three of them beautifully.
I love that. I can visualize that, and I love how you make it so that it is a memorable kind of link and it's sticky. And
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
your idea of the golden thread because that's often, whenever I'm writing an article or I'm doing a workshop, I always say, what is our main thread?
yeah,
Are
yeah,
we sticking to it? Did
right.
we diverge too much? Do we have to come back? Right. So I really appreciate that. I feel like we're very simpatico in a lot of ways. And that's probably why this was felt so effortless, even though I know you put work into this,
That's all right. No, yeah, I dug into I mean, I've been reading all of your publications, but when you're looking at it more like a
my thread.
brand person, I was like, yeah, I always wondered about this, and I always wondered about this. So before we go, I do want to say Brand Breakthrough Live is open for everyone to watch, because sometimes the clearest way to understand branding is to see a real challenge kind of talked through and worked through in real time. So even when the business, the audience, or the question is different from yours, the principles can reveal something to you about your own brand that you might be able to implement and make a positive change. So if you'd like to be a guest on Brand Breakthrough Live, you have to be a subscriber, but right now you can be a free subscriber. You don't have to be a paid subscriber. Send me your brand question via DM. And if I believe that it has wide appeal like Melon's, I'll reach out and we'll schedule you on a future episode. So thank you everyone for attending my first live on Substack, and I will see you next week with another Brand Breakthrough Live. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
Melinda.
Aloha. Mahalo.
Aloha. Bye.
Bye.